everyone, Daisy here again with another 12 Days of Trends, the series that I'm doing with Christy from Christy's Beautiful Life. Here you see me going through a bunch of my scraps of paper. I started with this one here that I'm cutting up, and that was kind of my inspiration piece, and I pulled pieces of paper that would match well with this one. And now I'm cutting about ½ inch strips of each of the pieces of paper, and I go way overboard. Like, I don't need as many strips as I cut down, but you know, I was kind of on a roll. So today our prompt is to use full texture. So I was gonna do a fringe layout because I love fringe and I have done full fringe layouts. I've actually done a full 2-page spread that was completely made up of fringe. So I decided to try something a little bit different. So basically I am going to create quilt squares and using these strips of paper, and then I run them all through my sewing machine so it adds a lot of texture to the background. But right now I am cutting these papers, and I did speed this up 8 times just because, I mean, I'm just, you know, slicing down papers. So the way I chose my my pattern papers, so I had that one inspiration piece, and then what I do is I kind of open up my scrap box and then squint a little bit, and I just pull out papers that kind of look or match the color tones of my like inspiration piece. And I feel like the squinting allows you to look past the patterns, because when you cut them down to this, like, I think it ends up being like 2-inch by ½ inch size strips, like the patterns don't really matter. So I just kind of mixed up each one of the strips and adhered them down to, I did use some white cardstock and cut them down into 2x2 squares, and then put the strips on it and then ran them all through my sewing machine. So each one, each strip of paper is sewn down with some silver thread, and I love the way this looks. And then I just use my ATG to stick it down. That also helps kind of hold the sewing in place because I don't backstitch, or I don't always backstitch. So the ATG is going to help keep the stitches in place. And I did leave quite a few of the little tail ends too, just to add to that texture. So I decided to go with this photo of my daughter and her friends walking the dogs, and it's just a fun photo of them, you know, out and about, and I figured why not. And I am using a this 8-inch doily, and I got that from Spiegelmom Scraps. And then I was so stumped at this point. Like, I got to here and I'm like, okay, I love the way this is going, but now what? Like, I couldn't figure out how I wanted to embellish it. I had no idea what letters I wanted to use, how I wanted to title it. So I do go off camera here in a minute, or maybe I do it on camera. I'm not sure. I guess we'll find out. But you see I'm pulling out a lot of options here. And so I will play around a little bit with the title and everything. I was gonna go with Road Trip Adventure because they were, you know, walking the dogs on the road, and so I thought it might work. But the problem is you can't read the black letters against like everything in the background, because I backed it with black cardstock, and so it just kind of blends in. So I end up not using this. But I'm going to try it out. And then I'm going to try something a little different. And like here, it's not that bad. But and then I'm going to go off camera and just mess around with it and try to figure it out, because I was really frustrated. And this layout actually ends up going in a direction that I had not intended, and it ends up being incredibly busy and kind of crazy, but sometimes you just have to have a layout like that, right? So I thought these stickers would work, but nope, they're not gonna make it on there. So I end up with that word colorful off of the Vicki Boutin like puffy stickers. and the word crew, and I think those are from a Dear Lizzy thicker pack. And then I'm going to just go to town. So I have all these stickers pulled out, and I'm going to use a bunch of them from Glitter Girl, some of them from Dear Lizzy Stay Colorful, and I think I also used some from the Stargazer collection. And these are just sticker sheets that I'm trying to get used up, so I just decided to go nuts. So originally I thought I would add a couple of stickers and then a couple of birds because I thought the birds would work. But then I just keep going and just keep adding more and more things. So originally I was planning on just doing 2 clusters of embellishments, but I do end up adding a third one. Excuse me. And I'm just trying things out, and if it works, great. If it doesn't, I put it back on the sheet. But I'm trying really hard to get some of these stickers used up because they're starting to lose their stick, and so they're not as, they're not as good stickers if they don't stick, right? And so I'm just, like I said, pulling it off, seeing if it'll fit, seeing if it works, if I like it, and then moving on to the next one. And I'm trying to make sure that in each cluster, like there's a representation of color or an item. So each one has an ice cream cone. Each one's going to end up with a house, a flower, a bird. I think a camera might be in each one. And then I make sure that the colors are kind of spread throughout too. And this sticker, I accidentally get it stuck. Well, when I stuck it down that first time, it pulled up part of the photo, so I had to basically just put it there because, and I think it says Chase Rainbows or something. Excuse me. I'm getting over a cold, and so I keep having to cough, which is really annoying, but luckily it did not last very long. I know a lot of other people have been dealing with this cold for like weeks, and mine lasted, I don't know, I think I'm on like day 10 right now, and it's really just a tiny little bit of cough, and it gets worse when I'm talking, of course. So I am also adding a little coffee cup to each of the clusters. And so I'm, trying to figure out what else I want to add. I had a bike up in that top one, and the only other bike I could find was facing the wrong direction, so I end up pulling it down or swapping them out. And really, the clusters don't have a whole lot to do with the picture. They were just for fun. I mean, basically, I was just adding them for fun. And so now I'm thinking I needed a third cluster somewhere. And so as I'm thinking about it, I'm, finding other little bits and adding them. And I'm trying to decide what I want to add to the third cluster that I'm going to put. And it's going to end up going down in the right-hand corner of the photo. I kept trying it up in the left-hand corner of the layout, but it just wasn't working because it covered up a lot of the patchwork, and it just didn't have anything kind of grounding it, so I ended up putting it down here. And so I feel like the clusters kind of pull your eyes down into that corner to the photo. Or it doesn't, and I'm crazy, and it just, distracts from everything. But anyway, if you haven't already, head on over and check out Christy's layout. It's adorable, as usual. Like, Christy has got just the best style, so you definitely want to head on over and check out what she made. I can't wait to watch the video and see how she made it, because I've already seen it, and it's just amazing. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again next time. Bye!